Are we on?
Yeah.
We're on. Here we go.
What's up?
1.5 hour warning, I guess. 90 minutes, 5,400 seconds until kickoff. And if you're looking for help getting those fantasy football lineups set, you've come to the right place.
We call this show The Sweat. He's Emerson, I'm Jessie. And before we bring in the experts, we have some injury news and notes for you.
Yes, we do. Tampa Bay's Ryan Fitzpatrick will reportedly start over Jameis Winston against the Bears. And here in New England, Josh Gordon is expected to make his Patriots debut. How much he will play, we do not know. If you do, please report it we can report it.
Yeah. Leonard Fournette is expected to play for the first time since week 1. Alshon Jeffery will be a game-time decision for Philly.
Okay.
His shoulder injury is reportedly healed up, but he's been sick for the last 3 days.
And per head coach Pete Carroll, Doug Baldwin has been cleared to play, and Larry Fitzgerald is expected to suit up for the winless Cardinals against the Seahawks.
Time to bring in Julian Edlow, Jeff Ulrich, and Greg Ehrenberg. Julian, do you expect Fitzmagic to continue putting up ridiculous numbers against this Bears defense? Nope, can't hear you.
That's how we like Julian. Silent.
Yeah.
That's some of the best arguments I've heard him make since he's been on the show.
Wow, Julian, great point. Jeff, to you.
There's some to look at this game. I mean, the Bears are actually going to be down their top 2 corners. Prince and Mukamara is out. I don't know what their top 2 corners, but one of their backup corners is out, and I think it's Marcus Cooper. That really does have me a little bit more bullish on Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Tampa Bay offense. You don't necessarily have to play Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think it does bump up guys like Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson. So I could see another big game from Ryan Fitzpatrick here, yeah.
Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, so I really couldn't disagree with Jeff more. Like, the Bears are one of my favorite defenses this week. They're only 2,600. And if you look at the pricing for DraftKings, the Bears defense is priced like they're going to regress, but Fitzpatrick is not priced like he's going to regress. And I think if we look at what we've seen so far this year, the Bears have added Khalil Mack, whereas Fitzpatrick, he threw 3 interceptions in the first half. He's been playing out of his mind so far this year. And he's been terrible for so many years in a row. Like, these 3 games, I think, are a total just anomaly. And I think the Bears' defense makes a lot of sense to save salary with.
All right, Julian, what about you? I think we need to hear your points again.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Greg and I get along and Jeff and I don't. The Bears' defense is a fantastic play this week. And yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Fitzmagic is over. He is due for regression on the road against one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in the league. This is just not a spot that I'm interested in Fitzpatrick whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah, turn his volume up.
No, we're good. Jeff, is it worth taking a flyer on Josh Gordon today?
No, I don't think so. I do think this spot is interesting for another reason, though. With Josh Gordon back, I think that's really going to free up Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan's been struggling, and with teams' top corners, he's probably not going to see as much of Xavier Howard today as he would with Josh Gordon on the field. I think it's really risky to use Josh Gordon because we don't know how many snaps he's going to play, but he's going to suck over some top coverage. That's going to open up Chris Hogan, who has thrived as the second or third option. So no Josh Gordon for me. Chris Hogan, though, is a yes.
Greg, how risky is it, in your opinion, to play some Josh Gordon today?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit risky, but I think this is a situation where no matter what happens, we're going to be unhappy with the amount of Josh Gordon we have on our lineups. If he has a really big game, I think everybody's going to be like, oh, it was so obvious Gordon was going to have a big game. If he doesn't do anything, we're going to think, oh, it was so obvious Gordon didn't do anything. I think the way to approach this is you put Gordon into like 1 or 2 lineups because there is so much upside there with him playing with Tom Brady. Once again, we don't know what his role is going to be. We don't know how many snaps it's going to be, so he's certainly not safe, but I think that the upside makes him worth a look in GPPs.
Julian, how do you approach playing Josh Gordon today?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Gordon definitely is not safe. If you're a 1 lineup player or a few lineups, you're not putting Josh Gordon in there. But if you're, entering 20, 30 small GPP lineups and you want to have some Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski stacks, you can have a lineup where you sprinkle Gordon in 1 or 2 times. But on the whole, he's obviously not a safe play. It's really just if you're going with a lot of lineups, you can find a way to get him into a Patriot stack.
Greg, how much value does Alshon Jeffery have if he plays?
Yeah, to me, like Alshon Jeffery is kind of a similar situation to what's going on with Josh Gordon, except to me there's even more risk with Alshon Jeffery because not only is he dealing with the shoulder injury, but he's also been sick all week and hasn't practiced. So I'm going to kind of assume that even if he is playing, which we're expecting, he's going to be on a pitch count. And then in addition to that, Carson Wentz played his first game of the year last week coming off the knee surgery. He didn't look like he was in full form either. So I think it's a situation where I think the Eagles are going to be fine this year, but it's more of a wait-and-see approach. I'm going to wait until they look good before I'm willing to roster them.
Julian, are you going to wait and see or are you going to take the risk?
Yeah, I need to wait on Alshon Jeffery. He's hurt. He's sick. Wentz is hurt. He's still not himself. There's a lot more targets there in Philly that you can trust in that offense. And then he's on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee's been a sneaky good defense so far this year. So I need to see what Alshon Jeffery's role is and then see him either have a big game or have a really good matchup before I'm rostering him.
Jeff, how do you feel about Alshon Jeffery?
Not good. Not for fantasy. Why would you pay up for Alshon Jeffery? We don't even know how many snaps he's going to play. If you want to target the Philly offense for some weird reason, just play Nelson Aguilar, who again, like Chris Hogan, is going to see more field, a little bit more open, second corners, whatever. And he's just in a better spot now with Alshon Jeffery. So there's no sense to take a risk with these guys in the first week back, in my opinion. If I was going to take one, it'd be Josh Gordon. But again, I just don't think either are really viable plays this week.
Hey, Jeff, what would a Doug Baldwin return do for the fantasy value of this Seahawks offense?
Yeah, it would definitely give up a bump to Russell Wilson, in my opinion. Doug Baldwin's a bit of a different situation because he's not necessarily coming back cold. Like he played preseason and he was, he's already played this season. So he's been involved in the offense. He's probably not going to be on a snap count this week, especially if the Seahawks get down. Pete Carroll will just march him out there, regardless if he's on one leg or not. So I think it does bump up Russell Wilson a little bit, who's really underpriced this week. It's not necessarily my favorite spot, but I do see that as a bit more of a GPP play now with Baldwin back.
What does a return of Doug Baldwin mean for his quarterback's value, Julian?
Yeah, I think what Jeff said there, Russell Wilson's just so cheap at $5,600. He was $1,000 more 2 weeks ago. So the Cardinals have one of the best defensive lines in football. The Seahawks have one of the worst offensive lines in football. So there's going to be pressure on Russell Wilson. He's going to have to get the ball out quick. But because Doug Baldwin's $5,500 and Russell Wilson's $5,600, there's definitely some GPP appeal there to stack those guys.
How much appeal does he have? $5,500, Greg.
Yeah, I think he's another strong GPP play. And the other thing also with Doug Baldwin, he's a big red zone target for the Seahawks, which they just haven't had this year because Jimmy Graham's gone. You look at Doug Baldwin, 29 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. And also with Graham gone, I think that we could expect a little bit more red zone targets should the Seahawks get down there. $5,500, we're used to seeing Doug Baldwin around like $7,000 or more expensive. So I think he's in a really good buy low spot.
We got the questions pouring in on Facebook. Going to try to get a couple in here. Jeff, Dylan Schmittler wants to know Rivers, Brees, or TB12?
I would go Rivers. I mean, it's just such a good bounce back spot for the Chargers. They have all their offensive weapons basically healthy now. San Francisco's crumbling. So to me, that is the biggest upside spot there between those three.
Julian, Gio Bernard or Tevin Coleman?
Oh, Gio Bernard. It's just too good of a spot. The Falcons let up the most receptions to the running back position. Look at what Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara did there. I know those are better players, but you got to go Gio.
And Greg, really quick, Dalton or Watson?
I'm going to go Watson, mostly just because I have more faith in his upside just as an overall fantasy play. Before he got hurt last year, he was one of the highest scoring quarterbacks on a per-game basis in the league. So I really think this is a spot for Watson, who's looked better the last couple of games coming back from the knee surgery to really have a big fantasy game.
All right, guys, thanks. That's going to do it for now. Which salaries you should chase or fade is coming up after the break.
What's up? I'm Taryn Azak with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers' Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's expected to start today against the Bears, despite Jameis Winston making his return after his 3-game suspension. Even with that shaky performance Monday night, Fitzpatrick is off to a hot start. Now, he's thrown for over 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns and is averaging 37 fantasy points per game. His price is high at $6,200 on the road at Chicago and may be feeling the pressure of Winston's return. So, roster him at your own risk and see if the Fitzmagic show rolls on.
Haha, are you freaking out about your lineups? Because same. But thankfully, our experts, Reed Fowler, the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels, and Ryan Collingsworth are here. BTW, you can find Ryan on the new Action Network app, available on iPhones and Androids everywhere.
Stone cold Ryan Collingsworth. That's right, baby. You can't phase that face. All right, people, we are playing Chase or Fade with the following NFL storylines. First off, let's go with you, Mr. Collinsworth. Tell me if you agree or disagree that this is the week that Fitzmagic finally fades and we'll see Wilson under center next week. Or
So
not
to clarify,
Wilson,
we are
Yeah.
fading
Winston.
Fitz and chasing crab legs.
The what?
That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying here.
What
If
are-
so,
oh,
then
yeah.
I'm in. Fitz threw 3 picks last week. The guys already mentioned, how dynamic the Bears defense is. They forced 8 turnovers already this season. I expect that kind of trend to continue. Importantly, for Tampa Bay and for Fitzpatrick, the reason why they've been successful early is because of the deep ball, and it's really hard to get the deep ball going with Khalil Mack in your face. And then in terms of timing, the Bucs go on a bye next week, and then the following week they travel to Atlanta for a divisional game. So in terms of timing, it sets up really nicely for Winston to come back and take the reins in week 6. He's still their future until they draft otherwise. They're not going to continue to ride the hot hand of a 35-year-old, journeyman indefinitely when they have him on roster.
Hey, Reed, is this the week that Fitzmagic runs out of magic?
I think it's going to fizzle out a little bit. So I agree with Ryan to an extent, but I'm going to fade this. And I think that if he does bad, if he throws up a 6er like he did last time with the Jets, and just really could have thrown 9 interceptions in that pass game, we kind of saw what Fitzmagic's floor is, right? But still, Tampa Bay's defense is giving up 362 pass yards. They're giving up a ton of yards, so you're going to have to pass it. Now, Winston's had his chances. He's had his chances to look at this offense, and when Deshaun Watson has been out, Deshaun Jackson has been out there, he really can't throw the ball downfield. He can't open it up. So I do think Fitzmagic does have 1 or 2 more weeks in him. Look, Jameis is going to see the field before the season is over, and Fitzpatrick is a journeyman backup quarterback. So we see his floor. So I don't think next week, but I do think the week after.
Rosalie, how do you feel about this? You're chasing that Fitzmagic is going to all of a sudden come back down to earth, and we're going to see Jameis Winston back under center here in the near future?
Well, it's funny. The first part of that game last week, I said we were seeing Ryan's twin brother Fitztragic with those first 3 interceptions.
Oh, yeah.
But then he got the magic going again. So, you know what? He's back to Fitzmagic. But, I say with this, everybody's afraid of the Chicago Bears defense, and with good reason. Khalil Mack does cause a lot of disruption. But we're forgetting that their 2 top cornerbacks are out. They're out today. What's interesting is, as of this moment, the depth chart down in Tampa Bay still doesn't show a starter. So it's really interesting. But I think you have to go Fitzmagic here, Fitzpatrick. You can't run on Chicago's D, but you can throw on them. It's going to be a pass-heavy game. Yeah, he's probably going to get a lot of interference from Chicago's D, but we saw that last week, and he was still able to get the ball off to Mike Evans quite a few times, and Deshaun Jackson, and all of those receiving weapons they have there. So I think he still goes this week, and I don't think we see Winston next week. I think until Fitzpatrick really truly starts to screw up, that's when they'll bring him in.
They considered pulling him last week. I will say that.
Well,
they did. They did.
What you gonna do?
But
what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Still scoring lots of fantasy points and lots of actual points. You can't pull that guy.
Still working on that internet thing. Still
so close. Just a couple times. But Rosalie, Drew Brees, he needs 418 yards today to pass Peyton Manning for the all-time passing yards record. He'll break it today at the Giants. Are you chasing or fading this?
Definitely fading it, as my internet is fading as well.
Yeah.
I swear, I got a new router and everything. What's the girl got to do? So definitely fading it. You know what? The Giants' pass D has been pretty good. They're only allowing they only allow 696 total passing yards on the year so far. Brees has put up less than 250 against Cleveland 2 weeks ago. I think if he gets close to 300 yards today, that's going to be a lot. I don't think he gets anywhere near the 418 today.
Reed, what do you think? Is he getting 418?
I'm going to have to agree with Rosalie here. He's averaging 311 yards against the Giants in his career. And if you look at and this is something that we've seen, this could be a potential trap game for Brees. And a lot of these guys in the Saints that have been doing well, his dome to turf or away or road games, his rating is 102 at home, 90 on the road. So coupled with what Rosalie was saying, in that defense, who does have a strong secondary, right? They have Janoris Jenkins, they have Landon Collins, who are more, optimistic in terms of what Brees is going up against. I do think that Brees can achieve sort of that 300-yard mark, but to put up 400, he's done it about 15 times. He almost did it last week. In his career, he can put up those numbers, but I just don't think it happens this week, so I'm going to fade this.
Hey, Ryan, do you want to explode the hot take-o-meter and say he's going to make it?
No. This is really cute of y'all to put this out there. It's like a very feel-good style thing. But if this was a legit player prop in Vegas, it would shut the city down because everybody would hammer the under so hard. So, no, I'm with everybody else. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. This is a fade spot. Brees didn't throw for 400 in any game last season. He did it in week 1 in a loss to Tampa Bay. Typically, you see these kind of numbers, 400-plus passing yards, in losses due to game script. And I just don't believe New Orleans is actually going to lose to New York this week. I can't go with this one.
Hey, Reed, real quick, we have a fantasy alert. Randall Cobb's going to be inactive for the Packers today against the Bills. So just real quick, I'll hit you with this. I mean, what's that do for the value of, say, someone like Geronimo?
It's great, right? Geronimo Allison has seen an uptick in production, and coming into the season, he was a sleeper because when you're number 2 guy with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that's going to be nice. And especially if you look at that defense, right? You have Tre'Davious White on Adams, and so who does that leave open? That leaves open the middle, leaves open Geronimo Allison. He's a big receiver, so that does increase his potential upside.
All right, so let's see. Last week, Josh Allen, again with the Bills, put up 27-plus fantasy points on the Vikings. This week, rookie quarterback Josh Rosen will make his first career start against Seattle. Ryan, chase or fade that Rosen will put up 25-plus DK fantasy points.
Another feel-good story for you.
And this is another just hammer fade from me. I'm not with these feel-good stories today.
Yeah.
I'm not even against Rosen necessarily. It's just that both teams are just straight up garbage. The O-line for both teams is in total shambles. There's a reason why the Vegas total is set at 38.5, which is abysmally low. There's not going to be sufficient scoring in this game to kind of justify that 25 DK points threshold. And the Seahawks defense is still aggressive, even though they're kind of a shell of their former self. I can't rely on Rosen to get here just on yardage. Vegas indicates there's not going to be enough scoring to get there. And with Fitz still hampered by that hamstring from last week, I just don't really see how this is going to happen.
All right. Ryan is not here for our feel-good stories this morning. But, Rosalie, how do you feel? Because this is Cardinals fan. Go ahead. Josh Rosen put up 25-plus DK points today. Come on, try to be a little, not so biased.
I'm not biased. You know that I will slam the Cardinals if they deserve it, and they deserve it right now. You know what? It makes me sad because I see throughout training camp, we heard about how fun this offense was going to be and how exciting and interesting and intriguing, and we've seen zero of that. Do I think that Josh Rosen lights a little bit of a fire? Yeah, but until they start getting David Johnson more involved in the game, you know what? This isn't rocket science. You don't have to rewrite the script. The game script is easy if you use the tools that are in front of you, and they're not doing that yet. I like the Christian Kirk, Josh Rosen connection. So I think for Kirk, he's going to see a lot more than he even has, especially with Larry out. But with Rosen, it's his first game. There's going to be mistakes. We're expecting that as Cardinals fans. It's going to happen. But, yeah, there's no way he goes over 25 fantasy points today. It's just not going to happen. Like our friend there was saying, it's just not going to be enough points scored overall in this game to make that viable.
Reed, you love a good feel-good story. Come on.
Love it. Come on.
Will the rookie put up more than 25 DK fantasy points today?
Chase? No, absolutely not. I'm just sorry. I was for the ratings there. One of the sweatometer go up. No, these guys are right. Just to hammer in the points that were made. Look, the Cardinals to give up the most DK points to running backs, and so that's why with this 38-point implied game total, the slowest game. And the Cardinals run the least amount of plays, average. So what do you think this game's going to be? Rosen's not going to be able to air it out. Look, he could get you a rushing touchdown potentially to hit this, and then he has to be efficient in terms of his attempts and his pass yardages. But then who's he going to go to, right? Rosalie mentioned Christian Kirk. He's a flyer, but Seattle's defense is doing pretty well, better than we've anticipated originally. So I just, if the matchup was a little better, if they had to throw it, right? If they had to go in and throw it, then yes, potentially. And Rosen's not at the point yet where he can change the plays at the line of scrimmage if he doesn't like it. Like Mike McCoy and these guys, I just don't get what they're doing. Rosalie's right. Like it's supposed to be exciting, but there's nothing that does it. So, babe.
All right, thanks for clearing all that up for us, guys. You three, please take 5. We will do the same. We see all of your fantasy football questions pouring in on Facebook. We will get to those right after this.
Pat Mayo here with an exciting new way to heat up your Sundays this football season. DraftKings has teamed up with Buffalo Wild Wings to bring you a fantasy experience like no other. Blazin Fantasy Football, a new free game only available inside Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Want to win free wings for a year, game tickets, Buffalo Wild Wings gift cards, or Blazin Rewards points? Here's how. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings, download the Blazin Rewards app, and join. Already a member? Not a problem. Just log in and fire up the app. Click or tap the Blazin Fantasy Football icon, join a contest, draft your lineup, and get ready to compete against rivals in all Buffalo Wild Wings restaurants. Blaze your way up the leaderboard by drafting who you think will be the top 8 players, including kickers. Best part? You've got a chance to really rack up the score with your Blazin pick. It's worth double points, so choose wisely. Don't just wing it. Draft your team in one of Sunday's 4 contests before each half of the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern games. Then, grab some wings, sit back, and watch your team light up the leaderboard. Come back every Sunday for new contests each week. DraftKings and Buffalo Wild Wings, the right stack for Sundays.
All right, what up? Before we bring back Pat Mayo, let's roll over some inactives for you. We know Randall Cobb with the Packers is inactive. Devontae Parker with the Dolphins is inactive. That one just coming down moments ago. Ryan Fitzpatrick is expected to start over Jameis Winston today. Josh Gordon, a game-time decision for the Patriots. Leonard Fournette will likely give it a go against the Jets, too.
Chris Mortensen reports that Alshon Jeffery will play. 49ers running backs Matt Breida and Alfred Morris are expected to go. Jay Ajayi will reportedly play, and we're likely to see the return of Doug Baldwin for the Seahawks.
All right, how about some must-plays today? That sounds good. I'll have that. Pat Mayo live in the PME studio. Take it away, brother.
Going on? Pat Mayo here. Gary and Thorn over there talking about our favorite DraftKings plays. I'll start it off. At quarterback, if I'm not paying down, and if I am, I'll probably pay for like some Ryan Tannehill action, maybe some Josh Allen action, just because I like
Josh Allen. I get you into a dangerous situation.
I like burning lineups, but I'm playing Deshaun Watson in over 50% of my lineups. I like this Texans game. I like the Colts side of the ball because I think you could really narrow down, especially with Eric Ebron. He is the savings of all of this. So Deshaun Watson, even if he just wanted to play him by himself, I think that makes sense. But I think you can pair up the other options with him too. You can play DeAndre Hopkins. You can play Will Fuller in this circumstance. We talked about on my show, which you can watch at 10 a.m.s every Sunday morning live.
You can listen to right now.
And you can listen to right now on demand on the audio feed and the video feed. But Kiki Kute is going to be back, $3,000. That's where you can get some savings too. I'm not saying just go play Kute, but like, it's a way, if you want to try to squeeze in Kamara, which I've done, I've squeezed in Gio and Kamara into those lineups.
Right.
That this is what you got to do. This is the trade-off.
Yeah, I think Ryan Griffin's kind of in play too. I wouldn't say he's a must-play for me, but I have more than, I would say, 25% of my lineups featuring Ryan Griffin right now at 2.6, and it's simply like you said. I think this is a sneaky spot for this Texans offense, where so many people are even going to be inclined to play Colts defense at 2.2 because we know about the offensive line woes of the Texans. We talked about this. Both offensive lines in this game are bad.
I mean, the Colts are missing both their tackles.
Exactly, and that's not generally great for offensive productivity, but we could see a lot of short fields. We could see turnovers flipping this game very rapidly. So I think there is going to be points scored in this game, and the Colts have allowed the most targets per game to tight ends. Ryan Griffin, while having done absolutely nothing so far this season, I know that, has played 80% of the snaps. So it's just a guy that's going to be on the field. I think Deshaun Watson's going to have a good game. I would say for me at quarterback, I'm going $400 lower. I like Matt Ryan a lot. And I think everyone's so magnetically drawn to Dalton. I mean, Matt Ryan's in a fantastic spot today. The Bengals have allowed or forced the fewest amount of punts per drive of any team so far this season. Teams score points against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think we talked about this in your show as well. I think it's a Julio week. I really do. I think everyone's kind of like Calvin Ridley's broken out. He's now a fixture, blah, 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 blah. I think this is a big Julio Jones week, and I love that stack with Matt Ryan and Julio.
We'll get to your questions at the end of this segment a little bit later on if you want to load those into the YouTube chat, because that's where I'm drawing from when it comes to all of this. However, outside of that game, just one final point. The Colts play the fastest pace in the league. The Texans play the third fastest pace in the league. It's going to be a game that goes on well into it's going to be this game and the Cincinnati and Atlanta game are going to be the two games that end later on in the day, unless something goes to overtime.
One of these games is going to tie, is what you're saying.
Potentially. I mean, I'll take a tie in this Texans game. So that's what I like there. At running back, it's pretty cut and dry for me. Kamara's the best play. I've worked my lineups to get him in, which means I had to pass on a lot of the top-end receivers. It's the choice I made. I'm playing Kamara, I'm playing a ton of Gio, and I'm playing a lot of Tevin Coleman. And Tevin Coleman less than those guys, but I'm playing Gio and Kamara in most of my lineups. Like the pivots that I've used off of that, I used to more Coleman than probably a little bit more of the other guys, but some Barkley off of Kamara, who I do like, a little bit of Melvin Gordon, Carlos Hyde, and then when those game stacks, I'm using a little bit of Naheem Hines. I have Bilal Powell in the lineup to save money.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing Sony Michel though.
Yeah, and I think they're justified in doing it. I like Sony Michel a lot this week. I mean, you look at the touch workload he got when he was on the field, 80% of the snaps he took, he received a carry or a target. I mean, he didn't do anything with them. But you look at the Dolphins and their defensive construct. I brought this up on Tuesday's ranking show. The best two run defenders the Miami Dolphins defense have, they don't have for this game. They're not dressing. William Hayes tore his ACL. He's out for the season. And Rashad Jones has consistently been one of the best run-stopping safeties in the league. I still really don't even know what's wrong with Rashad Jones. He's been a surprise scratch for 2 consecutive weeks now, but he's not in this game. I just think it sets up pretty well for Sony Michel. And if we want to talk about game script, I'm not a big trends guy, because the 2007 and 2011 Dolphins have nothing to do with the 2018 version of the Dolphins. But we are talking about a team that has not won in New England with Tom Brady active since 2006. I mean, if you're looking for a positive game script and the likelihood of Sony Michel just getting to eat carries in the second half, it's not out of the question in this particular matchup. So we're talking about a team that's really favored by almost a touchdown at home. That's generally a good spot to pound the running back position.
All right, wide receivers. I do agree with you that Julio is a fine play. I like Fuller. I like Jarvis Landry. I actually like Fuller. Probably, I think he's one of the best values on the board. He's not that expensive, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
$6,700.
And he's worked himself into, I mean, I didn't think we'd ever have this conversation with Fuller, but he's consistent.
Yeah. Now he'll pull his hamstring after 2 plays.
That's the issue.
Then you go full Will Fuller, and now you've really experienced every end of the Will Fuller.
That's pretty much all you can do. Look, we're now at a sample size of, he didn't play week 1, so we're at a sample size of 7 games, which is still not massive, but at this point, we're talking about someone who has scored a touchdown in every single game he has started with Deshaun Watson. I mean, at a certain time, you can't ignore a trend like that anymore. And I just think he's, not that he's going to continue to score a touchdown every game, but clearly he has something with DeAndre Hopkins being on the other side of that field. And I just think Watson is capable of making 2 receivers sufficient.
If you're looking for floor plays at receiver, just value-wise, Allen Robinson at 59, I like. Sterling Shepard at 49. Obviously, a lot of people are in on that. Quincy Enunwa at 43, I think are just very, very good floor players. If you're looking to take a shot at receiver, obviously Geronimo Allison is someone that you should probably play
pretty popular
at 47. But where it happens so late, this always happens. And when we're doing a live show and we're talking about, because these are things that we talk about, most people have set their lineups last night or this morning. They're not going back in and adapting. Sharp players will go play Geronimo Allison, but he's not going to see, it's not like, oh man, I was going to play Sterling Shepard, but now I'm going to play, that's not happening.
With such a magnetic force that is Sterling Shepard this week, I feel like he's still just going to eat up most of
Allison will still be lower owned than Calvin Ridley. And he shouldn't be.
I would agree.
So Ted Ginn's down there, Taylor Gabriel's down there, Christian Kirk in the $3,000 area, Kiki Kute, like I mentioned, are all down there. If you just want to take shots, and for tournament plays, you want big play upside. And that's what guys like Gabriel can get you, what Ginn can get you. Chris Hogan is another one. Everyone's just kind of off Chris Hogan. It's still a really nice spot for him.
I would say, too, with the news that Devontae Parker's not playing, I mean, I've been leading the charge on the you can't trust any Dolphin skill position players boat, but I really kind of like Jakeem Grant now at 3.9. I look at the way they utilize Grant, and I mean, there was a really strange stat through 3 weeks where essentially Grant leads the team in targets among wide receivers, despite the fact he's played the 4th fewest snaps of the wide receiving core. And it doesn't make any sense, but To me, that says Adam Gase wants to get this guy the ball 4 to 6 times per game, and he's going to figure out a way to do that. And you talk about it, it's big play opportunities. And Jakeem Grant is one of the fastest players in the NFL. With no Devontae Parker, he probably gets 5 to 6 to 7 more snaps in this game, maybe 1 to 2 more targets. And he's the kind of guy who, if you give him 1 or 2 more targets, that's just another lottery ticket that he gets at his disposal. So where Tannehill is viable as a quarterback this week, and it's been tough to try to figure out who to stack him with.
I still wouldn't stack him with anyone.
That's fair. But I would say if you are looking to do that, I would say Jakeem Grant is my number 1 guy.
All right, finally, tight ends. I think that O.J. Howard and Eric Ebron are the 2 best plays for the price point. If you want to go in a different direction, Njoku's even cheaper. Rhett Ellison is even cheaper.
Fine, yeah.
You like Ryan Griffin. Mark Andrews is getting buzz.
Yeah, I think Trey Burton is kind of being a little ignored.
Do we need to pay the extra $300 for Trey Burton when we can just pay for Eric Ebron?
I guess not, but at the same time, in a tournament, I feel like people are just going towards Ebron, and I don't think it's that different a situation. I guess we've seen Ebron get peppered with red zone targets, which we haven't quite seen from Burton yet, but this is a defense that they're facing today, Chicago.
Well, let's move through these. Defense. We're running out of time here.
Go ahead.
Defenses. Jags at the top end, Bears at the mid-tier, Titans and Colts from the low tier.
Yeah, seems about right.
Is there anyone else you want to throw on there?
I got a lot of Colts. I've got some Cardinals stock. I don't mind pairing the Cardinals with David Johnson. I just think it's a low projected game. They're at home. Seattle hasn't shown me a ton. They've got a high sack ceiling and floor. I don't mind Cardinals.
All right, quickly, let's get to some of these questions before we throw it back to the DK studios. Geronimo Allison or Calvin Ridley? I'll play Geronimo Allison.
Yep.
Carson or Kenny Golladay? I play Golladay.
Golladay, yeah.
Dallas defense or Arizona defense? Ugh.
Arizona defense.
Yeah, Arizona defense. What is good stacks this week? There's one to think about.
There's a question.
Like I said, I like that Titans game or that Texans game.
I think that is a sneaky spot, yeah.
Because everyone's playing the obvious stacks: Falcons, Cincinnati,
Bengals, yep.
and Saints and Giants that people are going for.
Yeah.
I got Boyd, Demarius, and Golladay. Who should I start? I would start Golladay.
Yeah, you're probably...
DT's a really good spot, though.
He is, but I think Galladay's earned it at this point.
All right. No, those are all the questions. Perfect. Gary and Thorn, you'll be back later on The Sweat.
I will.
I will not be. So thank you all for tuning in. Remember, sub to the Pat Mayo Experience. New shows every day, and we'll be live 10 a.m. Eastern Time Monday morning on the DraftKings YouTube page. So if you got waiver questions, you got trade questions, you might want to bring them there. All right? Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Fantastic as always. Real quick before we go to a break, rolling through some actives for you. LaShawn McCoy's active, as is Charles Clay, Golden Tate, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Graham, DeAndre Hopkins, Leonard Fournette, Gronk, and Josh Gordon will make his Patriots debut. Jameis Winston, he's going to serve as the backup, so Ryan Fitzpatrick does get the start. And Alshon Jeffery as well will be active for Philadelphia, so apparently his illness isn't bothering him as much.
I'm sick.
Get the black lung, Pop.
All right, we'll be back after this break to talk to our experts around some picks you should build your team around.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Brendan Glasheen, along with DK Live's Adam Levitan and Julian Edlow. They're here to help you make your pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em, presented by Papa John's. Get 25% off any regular menu price orders by using the promo code DK25. We're targeting 3 games with interesting storylines, fellas. First up, Lions at the Cowboys. Detroit impressed in primetime last Sunday night against the Patriots, while Dallas fell last game to the Seahawks. Adam, believer in the Lions after their first win?
It's not so much the Lions. I've been really down on this Cowboys team since the beginning of the season. The only thing they do well is have good offensive line play, and they're not even playing that well on the offensive line right now with Travis Frederick out. Now they lose middle linebacker Sean Lee to a hamstring injury. I think this Cowboys team could be one of the worst in the entire league, which is a shame because the management has completely wasted Dak Prescott's rookie minimum salary years. So yeah, give me the Lions here, who obviously played well against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football and come in hot.
Julian, does Prescott find his throwing touch from his rookie season this week?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily trust Prescott, but Ezekiel Elliott is probably the only guy I trust in this game. And obviously the Lions looked great on Sunday Night Football, but if we look back to those first 2 games, to Matt Breida and Isaiah Crowell combined, those guys on 21 carries got 240 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott has been pretty good so far this season, so I think this might just be a smash spot for him, and he's really the only guy I trust in this game. and could carry the Cowboys to victory at home.
Next up, the Carson Wentz-led Eagles visit the mystery quarterback-led Titans. Julian, what should we expect from Wentz in his second game back?
Well, Wentz, I think, should slightly improve, but this is just kind of the Titans have been a weird surprise team no matter who's been at quarterback. Marcus Mariota, weird story that he's in the backup role. Why isn't he starting? But he comes in and they beat the Jaguars. I just think Tennessee is a little bit better than people think, and the Eagles have kind of limped out to a 2-1 start, as has Tennessee. This is a tough game to call. I just think Philly might get a little bit more hype here, whereas Tennessee's in just as good a spot at home.
Adam, leading birds in this one?
Yeah, I think you can only mask really bad quarterback play for so long, and that's what the Titans have been doing. They've been scheming it up and, keeping the ball out of their quarterback's hands, whether it is Gabbert or whether it is Marcus Mariota, but that's not going to fly against this Eagles front, which is so good. And I know the Eagles struggle in the back end with corner play at times, but I'm not seeing Gabbert or Mariota exploit that. I also think we might get Alshon Jeffery back. For the Eagles, might get Jay Ajayi back, and obviously Carson Wentz is back too. So we're starting to see this Super Bowl team get back to full strength.
All right, and finally, an AFC West clash at Mile High. The Red Hot Chiefs take on the Broncos. Adam, I ask you again this week, does Patrick Mahomes light it up once more, this time in Denver?
Yeah, it's not like out of the ordinary anymore to think that Patrick Mahomes is going to light it up. He's done it ever since going back to the 2017 preseason, Week 17 last year at Denver. He played really well when Denver's defense was in better shape. And this preseason, he played well. In the first 3 weeks, he's been the best quarterback we've seen in a long time. It is certainly not a fluke. Patrick Mahomes will go to Denver and put up another big game against a team whose pass defense is no longer what it was with Aqib Talib gone.
Julian, who do you got? Chiefs to 4-0?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting spot to kind of be contrarian and take the Broncos. Look, the Patrick Mahomes hype is real. This guy is not a fluke. But, these last three matchups against the Chargers, against the Steelers, and this last week against the 49ers just could not have been any better for Mahomes to get off to this start. So, while I think he's the real deal, I also think that there's a chance he could be in store for a wake-up call here at a tough road matchup at Denver. While a lot of people could be piling on the Chiefs, this might be a good contrarian spot to go with the home team in Denver.
All right, thank you guys. That'll do it for this week's edition of Make Your Pick for DraftKings Team Pick'em, presented by Papa John's. For Julian and Adam, I'm Brendan. Talk to you next week.
You guys, a boatload of questions coming in right now on Facebook as well as YouTube. We've got them both open. We're going to hit on those here.
We're monitoring
in just a moment. But anchors are meant to keep your boat from floating away in case you forgot about that. But in order to keep our fantasy boats from floating away, we're going to get our experts' anchor picks and even hear who their top defense is.
Now, those football experts are the Action Network's Ryan Collingsworth and our DK Live contributors Greg Ehrenberg and Steve Buchanan.
Steve getting a haircut, huh?
All right.
So did Greg, though.
We're going to roll through and get the top defensive picks first. So which defense do you like? Ryan, why don't you hit us with your pick?
Give me the Cardinals at 2,600 as a punt play in cash. Arizona's got the 8th best adjusted sack rate. We touched earlier. They have one of the best D lines in football. And then on the other side of the ball, Seattle's offensive line is absolutely last in the NFL in the same category, adjusted sack rate. Russell Wilson, while I like him this week, he does have a tendency to hold the ball too long. We don't know how healthy Doug Baldwin will truly be coming back. He injured both his knees in a 2-month span, so we're not really sure what he looks like yet. So I like the sack potential there. It's not a sexy pick. It's a low Vegas implied total, but it'll get the job done in cash.
Steve, which defense are you taking?
Yeah, you got to love the Bears here. I mean, look, there's going to be points that are going to be scored in this game, but the Bears can still sustain some of that fantasy scoring for us. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is no stranger to turnovers. We saw him throw 4 interceptions in the last 2 games, not to mention the sacks that the Bears can amass, especially with Khalil Mack. Maybe he's doing it all lately. I mean, for a defense that's averaging 14 DK fantasy points on the year, you get them at 2,600, getting some really good value here today.
Ooh, Greg, keep it PG-13 and hit us with your defense.
Well, for one, it looks like Bukes and I have the same barber, which I think is also not a coincidence because we like the same defense. I think 2,600 for the Bears makes a ton of sense. We talked about Fitzpatrick earlier, and I just kind of think the run for him is over. He threw 3 interceptions in the first half last week, and then he played better in the second half. But in part, it was because he was playing in soft coverage because he threw so many interceptions in the first half that he was just seeing a prevent defense in the second half, and he was kind of able to just pick apart the Steelers' defense and rack up a lot of yards. There's a lot of upside in terms of sacks here. There's a lot of chances he throws interceptions, which could lead to pick sixes. I think the Bears' defense, 2,600, it's my favorite play on the slate.
I don't know if Steve likes you mentioning you guys have the same barber. It's just
yeah, it's not true.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, Greg, who's your anchor, bud? Your top anchor.
Yes. So for me, it's going to be Giovanni Bernard. I think that Alvin Kamara also makes sense, but I'm going to go to Bernard just because of the cheaper price tag. So he's going up against the Falcons. Notoriously, the Falcons have really struggled against pass-catching running backs. Over the last couple of weeks, Giovanni Bernard with Joe Mixon out, 18 targets, so he's going to be heavily involved in the passing game. We've seen him get red zone work. So I think that he's a really good salary-saving option, and he's the running back that I have the most exposure to this week.
Anchor down, Ryan. Who you got?
Yeah, as kind of a bit of a contrarian play, I like Zeke Elliott as my anchor this week at 7,700. I think with Todd Gurley having played on Thursday, being off this slate, a lot of people are going to look at Kamara and see that he's a lock. Maybe he is a lock, but Zeke would offer much lower ownership, some added cap flexibility, which I like this week, and sufficient upside to justify dropping down. He's getting close to 20 touches. He leads the Cowboys in targets. He's got 53% of the Cowboys' red zone market share. And then perhaps most importantly, the Lions defense ranks last in the league in run defense. They've given up 448 rushing yards already through 3 games. So I like Zeke.
Steve, your anchor pick, the player you were building your roster around.
Yeah, I was really debating between Elliott and Kamara, but it's got to be Kamara here, 9,600. I mean, he is super, super expensive this week, $9,600, but I'm not blowing anybody away with that pick. But, I mean, after 16 targets last week, he owns 29% of the team's target share on the season. It's an absolutely ridiculous number, and he's so involved in this offense, you just have to get him in your lineups here. I mean, this is supposed to be a very high projected game. He's a two-headed monster here, averaging 12 carries on the year, 10 targets per game. You just can't get any more production than that.
Cool stuff. Guys, we're going to take some of these questions, all right, that are pouring in. You want to take one of the Facebook questions first, Emerson?
Yeah, sounds good. Steven, Chris Hogan or Kenny Golladay today? That's asked by TJ Emerson, no relation to yours truly.
Yeah, Chris Hogan, I think he's in a really good spot here. I don't really like the spot for Golladay, so I think Hogan's a little bit of a sneaky play here today.
Lockett or Allison, Greg?
Yeah, this is going to be Allison for me. Tyler Lockett, I think, is going to see a little bit of a reduced amount of targets with Doug Baldwin back. And then Allison, I think that he's in for a really big role with Randall Cobb out. And then also, like Pat Mayo was saying on his show, the late injury news kind of means that it could suppress his ownership to what it would have been had this news come out a couple days ago.
Hey, Ryan, wide receiver stack, OBJ and Shepard, do you like it? That is asked by Dax Stewart.
I don't just like it. I love it this week. We talked about it. We talked about it a little bit last week, but just everything sets up beautifully. The Saints are without their slot corner. Shepard is going to be pretty chalky for a reason at his price point at 4,900. OBJ is the better tournament play, but yeah, that looks like a shootout. I'm all about it.
Ryan, I don't think I've ever heard you like something before.
Wow. As long as it's not a feel-good story. Steve, Jason Dow wants to know Russell Wilson or Andy Dalton. This is from our YouTube questions.
Not even close. It's Dalton. No explanation
needed. Not even close. No explanation needed. All right, fair enough.
Greg, Dalton and A.J. Green, are they the best picks this week? I don't really know what Charles Volk is trying to get at here.
I think they're fine. Are they the best picks this week? No.
Okay, well, how about this? Jordan Howard or Tevin Coleman? Steve Roth would like to know.
So for me, that's Tevin Coleman a lot because of his role in the passing game, and I think that should be a higher scoring game also. Jordan Howard does correlate well with the Bears defense. You want to pair them together, but in a vacuum, I think that Coleman is the better play.
All right, perfect. Hang tight, people. We're getting our experts' top stack picks after this break.
It's Carol and Azak with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. So far, the Seattle Seahawks season has not gone as planned. But do not worry, we have some good news. Top wideout Doug Baldwin will return after missing the past 2 weeks with a knee injury. Sure, there's a chance that he could be limited or even rested if today's game against the Cardinals gets lopsided. Remember, He's racked up over 3,000 receiving yards and nearly 30 touchdowns since 2015. Now, he could be the jumpstart this offense needs, and he's affordable at $5,500 in this risk-reward situation.
Reed, Jeff, and Rosalie, welcome back. It's good to see all of you once again. Let's stack them up. Let's get which teams you are stacking today. We'll need one main pick, one contrarian, but let's just get your main selection first. Reed.
Yeah, I'm going with Emerson's hometown heroes here, Jacksonville defense, along with Leonard Fournette. I know. It's 22% of your salary, so it's going to cost quite a bit. But if you look at this matchup right now, Darnold's thrown 5 picks. The offensive line hasn't really protected him that much. And if you look at the Jags defense, they haven't had as many interceptions as we all thought. They've only had 1. But if you look at this spot, I think it's really good. You got 8.3 DK fantasy points with Jacksonville. They're at home. This implied game total is 38, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are favored by 7. So when you want to attack a defense and a running back, that's what you do, right? The hometown favorites, obviously going to slow that game down. I think they're going to be up, and I think this defense is really going to increase their interceptions by maybe 2 or 3 this week. So that'd be my top stack.
That is a superb stack selection there, Reed.
Yeah.
Jeff, who are you going with, pal?
Reed not even sucking up to the good host. It's just embarrassing.
Hey, that's fine.
Yes.
Like, I'm top 2.
Who's your hometown team, Jessie?
Well, so I'm from D.C., unfortunately.
Oh, that's...
But my parents are from
Adrian
New York,
Peterson.
so my dad's a Jets fan, so it's kind of confusing. I went to BC. I consider myself a Pats fan.
Got plenty of room on the Jags bandwagon.
Fair. Jump on the good bandwagon. That's what I do, too.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going with Dalton and Tyler Eifert, along with Tevin Coleman as my top stack. I really like going to Eifert in this matchup. The Falcons' defense, they still have pretty good perimeter corners. You know, A.J. Green obviously could go up at any spot, but Tyler Eifert was really involved last week. We've seen him have multiple touchdown upside with Andy Dalton. I think that's a really good cost-effective stack. Good game total here. And then I like going back with Tevin Coleman on the other side. He's cheap. He's going to be way under-owned compared to Gio Bernard. So that's my top stack for the week.
Rosalie, what about you, please?
Oh, man, I am salivating over the Rivers and Gordon stack this week. I love this one. Rivers is only 6,500. Gordon's only 8,300. Rivers is averaging over 24 fantasy points a game. Gordon over 25. San Francisco giving up over 25 at both positions. You know what? Eckler's going to be in there too, but he has been, and Gordon's still scoring a lot of fantasy points. With the change in QB in San Francisco, I just feel like the time of possession is going to weigh heavily in the Chargers' favor here. So I'm expecting a lot, like an obscene amount of points out of those two.
Yeah, T's and P's for Jimmy G. Yeah, T's and P's. All right, how about a contrarian stack, Jeff?
Well, we heard Ryan talking about the Cards defense. I like that play, and I like going with David Johnson too, who's dropped all the way down to 6,600. Look, the Seahawks gave up like almost 150 yards rushing to Zeke Elliott last week, 7 yards per carry. There's no reason why David Johnson can't get going in this spot. They're home. The Cards D is only 2,600. I mentioned the Bears do have some injuries on defense. I think this is a very good swerve play for tournaments. The Cards defense is going to be lesser owned. You pair him with David Johnson. They got off to a good start. It's a big week for David Johnson at a depressed price. I really like this stack personally for tournaments. I think it's cost effective and it's got a lot of upside.
Always great insight from you, Jeff. Reed, give us a contrarian stack, please.
I don't know if that was sarcastic or not.
It was not sarcastic.
She's sucking up to him
I'm
because
favoring
he said,
Jeff.
How dare you, Reed?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to go ahead.
Trubisky and Taylor Gabriel for me with Chicago. That's going to give you, I think, 9,100, so 18%, a little less than my top stack. But look what happened last week with Pittsburgh and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now you have Anthony Miller out with Chicago. Taylor Gabriel saw double-digit targets last week, and you get him at 3,900. I think this is a fine play. You look at this defense giving up a ton of points to opposing quarterbacks. So Trubisky is not going to wow you and take the top off of any defense for that matter. He averages around 18 to 19 DK fantasy points, but if he can get you 20 and Taylor Gabriel can give you that upside, that can really do damage. Like Juju saw a ton of targets in the slot. Like he's a way better player obviously than Gabriel, but we've seen Gabriel have big games in Atlanta before that. So that would be my contrarian stack if you want to save money and go to Kamara or some of these other
Can I just interlude for a second, guys?
Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm playing Reed in season long this week, and I just moved Nelson Aguilar out of my flex, and I'm playing Taylor Gabriel against them. I'm using his own information against them. That's how you work these people.
That is cold, Jeff. I am a huge fan of that move. Now, Rosalie, we're going to get your contrarian stack, but also there are a lot of comments right now. People seem to be very confused and think you only have one earring on. I, however, can see your other earring and would like to point out to everybody that when a woman puts her hair behind her ear, sometimes one of her earrings is hidden, but can confirm two earrings. We can confirm. People are really concerned about it. So, okay, now hit us with that contrarian stack.
You gotta chase that other earring.
Yeah,
right?
chase it all day.
It's not a fade. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're looking out for me though, because it is early in the morning.
You never know. Yeah, I've done it.
Could forget an earring, and that's why the hair is good to have just in case.
Exactly.
Good.
So, I love the David Johnson pick simply because I'm thinking to myself, but he has to be on the field. They're not putting him on the field, which is very confusing. So hopefully if he's on the field, that'll work out for you. But my contrarian stack is absolutely, and maybe it's not as contrarian anymore because I think they're getting a lot more hype, is the Eli Manning and Sterling Shepard stack. You know what? The Saints D is giving up an obscene amount of points to QBs, over 35 fantasy points a game, and over 66 to wide receivers, and all those passing yards, all those touchdowns that they give up in the passing game. And the Saints lost their starting slot cornerback, Patrick Robinson, and that means that Crawley and Williams, who went up against Calvin Ridley last week, and what happened there? They allow for a perfect 158.3 quarterback rating in their coverage on the season. Calvin Ridley scored a lot of fantasy points, so is Sterling Shepard. So they're my contrarian stack this week.
All right, let's get to some questions here once I get through some of these not safe for work comments. You have a lot of fans out there today, Rosalie.
Yeah, a lot
No
of
one
fans.
talking about, though, how good-looking Jeff and Reed are, so... Yeah, anywho, James White is...
We're great-looking guys.
Is James White a good play? Dak Stewart would like to know, Jeff.
I think he's a little bit overpriced personally. I think for GPPs, getting a little piece of him is fine, but I'm not paying up for him on DraftKings this week personally, no.
Okay.
Reed, from the YouTube questions, Golden Tate or Mike Williams? Rick G wants to know.
Yeah, I think I like Mike Williams. Golden Tate just got cleared when he had that groin injury, so we don't know if his time's going to be limited. That's three receivers. Like, Detroit can handle the three receivers, but Mike Williams now that second option going against a really depleted San Francisco secondary. So, Mike Williams.
Let's see. Would you rather use Mike Williams or Ted Ginn Jr., Rosalie?
Oh, I agree. Reed just said it. Mike Williams. I'm all over him this week. Keenan Allen is still, he's got some groin issues too. A lot of groin issue in the NFL this weekend. But yeah, Mike Williams, absolutely all over him.
Jeff, Michael Eddy wants to know Hopkins or Julio?
Ooh.
Ugh. Julio.
Yeah. Julio. All right.
Doesn't seem very committed to it, but that's okay. We've got Steve.
Well, the thing with that game, though, too, right, with Houston and
ahead.
Indianapolis, that should be a decent shootout. So if you want to go Hopkins, well, you can't deny that Fuller is getting a touchdown per game with Watson. That's going to be a little bit cheaper. So I agree with Jeff.
Hopkins staying up, too.
All right.
Yeah.
Our beautiful football panel. We'll see you guys back here shortly. We've got Steve Buchanan throwing punches with his little brother Julian after some B-Dubs deliciousness.
Pat Mayo here with Sunday's Blazin game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Start at running back, and among the top options at the position, Melvin Gordon shaping up to do some serious damage against the suddenly banged up 49ers. Well, San Francisco has been pretty good at limiting backs on a per carry basis. They haven't quite mastered limiting fantasy points at the position just as of yet. Through 3 weeks, they're giving up 25 PPR points per game to opposing running backs. Yes, Gordon split snaps and touches with Austin Eckler, but in the expected positive game script as giant favorites, Gordon monopolizes the Chargers' goal line work and is highly involved in the passing game. So, his touchdown equity in this matchup is through the roof. At receiver, keep rolling out the top option until it doesn't work anymore. Michael Thomas has been the man in 2018. 38 catches, almost 400 yards, and 3 scores in 3 games. And you might think, The Giants have given up the 5th fewest fantasy points to wideouts through 3 games. That's crazy, Pat. And your numbers would be correct, but they have no context. 2 of those games were played against Jacksonville and Dallas, teams not exactly known for their receiver strength. When they played Houston, it was a fantasy bonanza for receivers. Thomas won't have any issues. And if we're going to use Thomas, may as well pair him up with Drew Brees. In the absence of Mark Ingram and a regression in the defense, Brees is back to classic Brees passing rates, averaging 43 pass attempts per game and almost 360 yards. And against a Giants squad devoid of DB talent, don't expect that to change. Those are your Blazin game day picks presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Pat Mayo.
All right, put up your bukes. You know you're a big deal here at DraftKings when you get your own open.
That's true.
Time to welcome in Steve Buchanan. Yes, if you could not tell by the animation, that was Steve Buchanan punching his little brother Julian. Time for the show's
the graphics team was quite generous with those muscles on Steve there.
Dude, I can tell from the way Steve is sitting right now, he's jacked, bro.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so it's so good it has its own intro animation. Steve, please pick 3 value plays you like for today and make DK point projections for each one. Julian will then once again make it clear how much he hates this segment and that we always put him on it. So Steve, your first pick, please.
Yeah, this one should be a real doozy. I like to see him try to take down these ones. We're going to start with Ryan Tannehill for 23 DK fantasy points, 5,500 today. I mean, it's hard not to like this spot for him against an awful Pats defense. Lots are expecting a bounce-back game from Tom Brady, which is fine, because that means Tannehill will be throwing more. I mean, he's thrown for multiple touchdowns in 3 starts in all 3 games this season, completing 73% of his pass attempts. The Patriots enter this game averaging 22.7 DK fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks and 45.7 DK fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. You have to like the value here. So now, ladies and gentlemen, for a minute of nonsense rebuttal, is Julian.
Yeah, Julian, $5,500. What do you think?
I mean, you've made a lot of good points. Obviously, the Patriots' defense is not very good, so this game's going to go one of 2 ways. The Patriots are either going to continue to be really bad and Tannehill's going to exploit them, or the Patriots are going to return and have a really good game and Tannehill's going to be throwing from behind. So I get the appeal, but because this is Steve's pick, I will play devil's advocate, and here's why Ryan Tannehill is going to suck. In the Patriots' 1 home game this season, they faced Deshaun Watson, who scored 13 DraftKings points in that game. Since then, he's scored 27 and 29 DraftKings points in his other 2 games, so he's obviously having a very good season. Tannehill has scored below 23 DK points in his first 2 games of the season, so there is plenty of data to back up Tannehill having a poor game in this spot.
So to be clear, you don't think he's going to get 23 DK fantasy points?
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right.
Thanks for playing along, Julian.
Steve, hit us with your next buke.
I'm enjoying that apple there. It's way more important than what Julian have to say. We're going to go with Sterling Shepard, 21 DK fantasy points at 4,900. Look, he's going to be the big talk play today. You definitely haven't. It's not the first time you're hearing about playing Shepard here. Look, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be on Odell Beckham, which doesn't even seem like a big deal anymore, which leaves Shepard to fend off with P.J. Williams and Ken Crawley. These guys have allowed 6 touchdowns combined already and 431 receiving yards. With no Evan Ingram and his average 6 targets per game out for today, Beckham, Barkley, Shepard are the 3 main guys here in this offense. Shepard is an absolute no-brainer. If Julian tells you otherwise, he's on. He can't.
Julian.
Right, Julian.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's called Put Up Your Bukes. Steve's supposed to make picks that people argue with, and he takes probably what's going to be the most popular play on this slate.
Ooh.
So, no, I can't put up my bukes because it's obvious. Like,
Hot take.
seven catches for 80 yards and a touchdown last week. Now he goes up against the Saints defense, one of the worst defenses in the league, who just had their number 2 corner go down for the season with an injury. It's like a home run, no-brainer spot. Nobody's going to put up their bukes against you for this. You take the best play on the slate.
Oh,
You
man.
know, if we had like Jeff on this segment, he would say something because he's not a coward.
Oh!
Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe the target's funnel there and he has a big game.
Wow.
That was awful.
I'm so glad you 2 are not physically in the same room, or else we actually might come to bukes. All right, Steve, hit us with your 3rd pick, please.
Yeah, we're going to go with Kelvin Benjamin, 15 DK fantasy points. If he made a child's book, he could write it and it could be called How I Lost My Shadow in Week 4 by Kelvin Benjamin. He's been shadowed the past 3 weeks. Brandon Carr, Casey Hayward, and Xavier Rhodes have all been on him, and now he's not going to have that type of coverage this week. So yeah, he hasn't done much because he just hasn't been able to. So he loses the shadow coverage this week, and he has Josh Allen throwing to him, which is a nice boost from whatever the hell he's had before. Even in coverage, he was still averaging 5 targets per game. I think he can easily surpass that today. Again, 3,600 is not much to love here against a defense that's allowing under 43 DK fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Benjamin's going to save you a ton of salary. I think he's in for a big game here.
Yeah, he's going to save you salary, but is he going to get you 15 DK fantasy points, Julian?
Yeah, saving salary is about all he's going to do here. The Green Bay defense, decent matchup, but look at Kelvin Benjamin, 6 catches for 58 yards this season. Why do I want to play him?
I don't know. Did you hear what I just said? Were you listening to what I just said or no?
This is my part.
Yeah, no one cares
You
what
yell
you
at
say.
people for interrupting all the time. Kelvin Benjamin, trash play this week because the Bills do not get any production from the wide receiver spot. Even when they blew the Vikings out, Josh Allen ran in 2 touchdowns. Chris Ivory had a big game on dump-offs and running the ball. Even when the Bills play to their ceiling, they still can't find a way to get the ball to wide receivers, which is why you don't want to play Kelvin Benjamin.
All right, the people have questions. Hopefully you guys have answers here. Steve, Royce Freeman or Doug Baldwin in a flex position?
I just don't trust how healthy Baldwin is, so I got to go Freeman.
Hey, Hector Gonzalez wants to know Colts or Ravens defense, Julian.
Oh, you got to go Colts there. Good value at home. They've been playing pretty well. They get the Texans there. Steelers have been scoring a lot of points this season.
Well, good answer for a change.
Oh, wow. You have your big brother's approval for once. Should I start Chris Carson non-PPR? Steve?
No.
Okay.
Okay, no. Julian,
go with the no on
Jay
that.
Ajayi or LaShawn McCoy?
Oh, God. Can you do anything else?
No, this is the question.
But try to get away out of both of them.
Okay.
All right, real quick then, try to answer this one, Julian. Ebron or Kittle?
Ooh, Ebron, come on. Kittle's got Jimmy G gone now. Ebron got 11 targets last week with Jack Doyle out.
All right, you two. You guys keep me young. Well, you try to. We've got a segment coming up after the break with Gary called Thorn in My Side, but it doesn't have its own animation.
Ooh.
Welcome to $1 Million Picks presented by Roman. ED meds prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com. I'm Adam Kaufman. We're here to make you money. The goal, identifying players with the most upside for Sunday's main slate. So let's check in with our $1 Million panel, Reed Fowler and Adam Levitan. Reed, who do you think can have a $1 million impact this weekend? Give me a couple targets.
Yeah, first one is going to be Andy Dalton at 5,400 going up against the Falcons. Look, we all saw what Brees did to the Falcons, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, right? So 5 total. This guy's coming in now, potentially without AJ Green. He might get lower ownership. Look, if AJ Green plays, it's an uptick. Atlanta's giving up a ton of points, especially to opposing running backs. And so that entire Cincinnati team could be there for a big game. And my second one is James White, same price at 5,400 going against Miami. Rex Burkhead now on IR. This is a big spot for James White. Tom Brady said, hey, look, get this guy the ball. This guy needs to get the ball. Miami is 8th best for opposing running backs. And so James White would be my guy at 5,400 for my $2 million picks.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think AJ Green is going to play in that game, which is certainly an uptick for Andy Dalton. I'm going to go to this Giants-Saints game, and I'm going to look at Sterling Shepard. I think like we saw last week with Marshawn Lattimore on Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley going off, this week we could see Marshawn Lattimore on Odell Beckham, leaving Sterling Shepard to operate. We know that the Saints are playing musical chairs at the number 2 cornerback spot. And we know that their slot corner, Patrick Robinson, is lost for the year with a broken ankle. So I really like the spot for Sterling Shepard. Makes a lot of sense. And then a higher owned guy, I think, will be Melvin Gordon. And we get him in this home game against the Jimmy Garoppolo list. 49ers do expect a really good game script here for Melvin Gordon, who has quietly seen a huge boost in his receiving production, which I think will help here.
Yeah, that Giants pick or the Sterling Shepard pick is nice. I mean, you get the second highest point total game on the slate. So, yeah, I like those picks.
All right, thanks to our $1 Million panel. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you next week on $1 Million Picks presented by Roman. ED meds prescribed online, delivered to your door at GetRoman.com.
All right, quick update for you guys. AJ Green is actually cleared to play. That pelvis injury initially looked bad enough that he might be sidelined this week, but the team released its final injury report on Friday, and he's good to go. Okay. So now that we have that out of the way, welcome back to The Sweat, where we ask our experts the tough questions so you don't have to physically sweat with fear and nervousness about your fantasy lineup.
All right, and boy, do we have a treat for you. The trifecta of Gary and Thorn, Julian Edlow, and Steve Buchanan.
Why is Julian here?
Listen, man, you guys work it out. You guys work it out after the show. We got 26 minutes left, so hang tough. Just pretend you like each other.
Please.
They're here to play Thorn in My Side, which, Gary, you're going to hit us with your top 3 fades of the night, and then these guys will fight you on it. And by the way, I hear you could possibly have an animation coming up to this segment.
Wow, so huge.
There might be one in the works. No word yet on if they ever are going to consider one for Hidden Jewels. So, your first fade here, Garion, is who?
Well, speaking of things in the works, I feel like after Steve took Sterling Shepard, I just want to change all these picks to don't play Sam Darnold against the Jaguars. I feel like that's a pretty
exactly
good play in this spot.
Captain Obvious, huh?
Real creative.
I'm gonna say let's talk about Kerryon Johnson. Johnson obviously broke out last week against the Patriots. Finally have a Lions running back who ran for 100 yards. It's a great story. I understand it happened on national television, but everyone keeps referring to Kerryon Johnson in the sense that his role continues to expand, and we've seen the carries go up every single week. And while that's true, it was the perfect scenario last week. They are never going to get a game script as pristine for running back volume and running back success as they got against the Patriots. They had the ball for 40 minutes in that game. The Lions are a team that clearly, season after season under Cooter, have shown they want to pass the football. And even in that perfect script, that ideal script that's never going to happen, especially not this week against Dallas, Johnson only got 16 carries. LeGarrette Blount also got 16 carries. The Lions are not a team that are going to, on consecutive weeks, run the ball over 30 times. Just not going to happen. Dallas is a pretty good run defense, 3.4 yards per carry for the season. I don't care that Sean Lee's not playing. Doesn't factor in for me here. And also, when it comes to goal line work, 4-1. That is the LeGarrette Blount's lead over Kerryon Johnson in red zone carries so far this season. I just want no part of this, even though he's trending in the right direction.
Steve, can you even make an argument to start this guy?
No, I mean, you can't put a lot of stock into what he did against the Patriots. I mean, I think the practice squad could rush over 100 yards against the Patriots defense right now. And Johnson just simply doesn't get enough targets. And he's going up against a good Cowboys defense, like Garion mentioned. I mean, he had 16 carries last week, sure, but he hasn't seen more than 10 in the first 2 weeks. And then LeGarrette Blount still in the mix. No on Johnson. Just don't even go there this week.
Yeah, Julian, are you going to go there?
Probably is.
I'm not going to go there. The only, argument that you can make here is that Johnson did have 5 catches the week before against the 49ers, so he could be involved in the passing game here. But the split that he has with LeGarrette Blount's just getting way too many touches, and he's getting all those red zone looks. So the salary coming down $200 to $4,400 is nice. The catches are nice, but you don't have to go there in this matchup. Last week just lined up perfectly for him.
All right, Gary, no pushback on your first Thorn. What's your second one?
Allen Robinson's in a real interesting spot this week. I think it's pretty easy to say that Tampa Bay has been exploited by passing offenses through 3 weeks, and that's accurate. Brent Grimes coming back last week, I guess helped a little bit, but clearly not that much in their game against the Steelers on Monday night. The problem here with Allen Robinson, who does have a large target share in this offense and kind of has a nice price point considering that target share, is these are kind of empty targets. When you look at the amount of catchable balls he's seen this season, only 3 of every 5 targets he's gotten, 60%, have actually been catchable passes from Mitch Trubisky. And Trubisky, too, among the lowest in the league in terms of completion percentage or amount of his completions over 15 yards. I mean, he just doesn't throw the ball accurately. He doesn't throw it down the field. I don't mind Trey Burton in this spot, but for Allen Robinson, even with that big volume carry he has every single week, I think it's kind of a misnomer. I think it's kind of a false positive.
Steve, what do you think? It does seem like Mitch has got to step it up if, Allen Robinson's value is going to continue to increase.
No, I mean, I like Robinson for GPPs here. I mean, Brent Grimes is playing, so he'll be matched up against him some, but Robinson's almost lining up evenly on both sides of the field, on the left and the right. So while his matchup against Grimes isn't the greatest, he will see a lot of Carlton Davis. He's allowed 14 receptions on 19 targets for 175 yards and a touchdown so far. And like Garen mentioned, his target share is huge still. And in a GPP, I mean, you can't ask for more than that. 5,900, he's seen 14 and 7 targets on the season so far. So yes, the targets are there. They haven't been that great, as Garen did allude to, but the opportunity is certainly going to be there. And a guy with Al Robinson's talent there, it's going to come through at some point.
Julian, Allen Robinson in GPP, you like it?
I like it in GPP, and I'll take it a step further and say Allen Robinson isn't even a bad play in cash. We're talking about the target share here. Yes, Mitch Trubisky has to be better, but 28 targets in 3 weeks. He's had a minimum of 50 yards in all 3 of his games, and he's yet to reach the end zone, which is going to happen eventually. So against Tampa, who ranks 30th against wide receivers, I think this is a very good spot for Allen Robinson, and I wouldn't be afraid to use him in any format, really.
Gary, your third Thorn, please.
Let's talk about Tyler Lockett. I was prepared to fade Tyler Lockett if Doug Baldwin wasn't playing. I guess Doug Baldwin's presence, regardless of how healthy he actually is, the thing to take away here is Baldwin tends to play a high percentage of his snaps in the slot, and that's where Lockett's been thriving the past couple of weeks, and that's really how you want to attack this Arizona Cardinals defense. I mean, you don't want Lockett to get Peterson for any of these possible snaps. Now, maybe Jaron Brown is just the guy they sacrificed to Patrick Peterson. That would help Lockett, who right now in PPR formats is wide receiver 13. He's had a pretty good run to start the year, but it's just a really unstable way he's gone about collecting those numbers. 37% of his fantasy points in PPR scenarios have come through touchdown production. That's just way too high for something as 50-50 as touchdowns happen to be, especially with an offense that just isn't moving the ball like the Seahawks have been. I've heard this tossed around on the show already. I'm 100% behind it. I like using the Cardinals defense this week at home in what's projected to be a low implied total for both teams. I want no part of Tyler Lockett this week.
Julian, with Doug Baldwin coming back today, doesn't that help out Tyler Lockett?
No, because as Garion said, look at those slot snaps. That's where Doug Baldwin primarily is going to be playing. So I didn't like Lockett that much to begin with. Baldwin coming back makes me like him even less. And when you start looking at that $5,100 price point, you go right below it. You have Steve's contrarian play of Sterling Shepard right there at $4,900. Calvin Ridley's at $4,900 coming off a huge game. Tyler Boyd at $4,600 has been really hot going up against that Atlanta defense that's been letting up a lot of points. I think there's a lot more wide receivers in that price range that have way better matchups, way better spots that you can pay for.
Steve, what argument can you make for playing Tyler Lockett?
None.
All right, so you're on board with Garion's third Thorn. You were on board with 2 of his 3 Thorns today. I think that is a rarity here on this program.
I like him a lot more than Julian.
Okay.
Have you ever met Tyler Lockett?
No, but I don't plan to either.
You still
Fair
like
enough.
him more than Julian.
I mean, to be fair, he's been their wide receiver 1, as you want to say, and he's getting less than 6 targets a game. I mean, what kind of wide receiver 1 is that? It's just not, the production hasn't been there at all. I mean, sure, he'll avoid Patrick Peterson, but I mean, it's just, like I said, 200 less, you can get Sterling Shepard. I mean, why would you even think it over?
And I know Ryan Collinsworth mentioned earlier on this show, too, just what an absolute disaster that offensive line is. I mean, this game could be ugly. Who knows? Thanks, guys. Sit back, relax. Take a listen now to Adam Kaufman's chat with Mike Francesa earlier this week about what's up with those 0-3 teams. There's 3 of them.
3 teams that are really struggling right now, at least in terms of their records. The Texans, the Raiders, the Cardinals, they are each 0-3. Are any of them capable of rebounding to make the playoffs, or are they just done?
I don't think any of them will make the playoffs. Houston should be better. I mean, first of all, they're not getting enough out of Watt, Merciless, and Clowney.
Mm-hmm.
Watt showed up last week. He beat the right tackle a couple of times like a drum. But other than that, he had been very quiet in recent weeks. Clowney's in and out of the lineup. Merciless has had a hamstring. They should be better there. Their offensive line is as bad as the Giants, and the Giants actually got better last week with the changes. So right now they probably have the worst offensive line. That has really shut down their big playability. Frankly, they went into the year thinking they were going to be a playoff team. They don't look good. Arizona could be as bad as any team in the league. That's going to be a very rough season for them. I don't think there's any question. They're going to have a nightmarish season. The Raiders are losing games, but they're competitive in the games, they're falling apart late, they will win games. They have a better team than people think. They've been in all these games, and then things have, like last week, they were winning that game most of the game, and then they gave up big plays. They will win some games. I wouldn't even be surprised if they won this week. They're better than they look. The other two teams, Houston's going to struggle, and I think the head coach could be in trouble. Arizona's going to be awful. I think the Raiders could win some games.
Two teams that aren't winning too much right now, the Giants, the Jets, you're all too familiar. They're each 1-2. Is there panic in the streets out there yet, or are people doing okay?
I think the Giant win, especially that he made the moves on the offensive line that we were calling for. He cut the fullback who missed 2 assignments. He changed the right tackle, which gave them some continuity, although the right tackle got beat up a couple times when they singled him against Watt. The bottom line is the offensive line, except for the right tackle, played better. Now, that's just the way it worked out. So they did get a lift from it. They were more imaginative in their play calls. Eli had a terrific game. So I think they had some positives there. And they get Vernon and Apple back probably this week, which will be big positives. They haven't had Vernon, which is their pass rush, all year. They need to win 2 of these next 4 games. The next 4 games are really tough. If they can get they have New Orleans, Carolina, Philly in prime time, Atlanta in prime time. If they can win 2 of those and get to 3 and 4, they'll make a run at the playoffs. If not, they won't. But this is a now team. The Jets are trying to build a culture, and they are doing it the right way, but it's going to be painful this year. They're going to win 6 games, maybe 7. Sam's going to have good days. He's going to have bad days, but they have a franchise quarterback, and they're $95 million under the cap. So there's better days coming, but they're not coming this year for the Jets.
All right, hello everybody. We are back. She is Jessie. I am Emerson. This is a show that we call The Sweat, and some off-the-wall picks are about to hit you right in the face.
Wow, this time our panel consists of Greg Ehrenberg, Reed Fowler, and Ryan Collingsworth of the Action Network. Guys, who are you going way off the board for this week? Give us one of your 2 picks, please, Reed.
Yeah, initially I wanted to go Taylor Gabriel, but I've already mentioned that in earlier segments. I'm going to go Jakeem Grant in Miami at 3,900. Garion talked about and touched on it too. If you're playing Ryan Tannehill as a contrarian pick, you got to pick Jakeem Grant. This guy is top 3 in most yard separation at like 4.6, which is extremely fast. And if it's a copycat league, which it is, you're going to want that Tyreek Hill type player. And Jakeem Grant is a guy that can take the entire lid off of defense. Look at New England's defense as well. Their secondary 6th best or 7th best for opposing receivers, giving up 45 DK fantasy points. New England secondary or even their defensive line don't scare me. They can't pressure the quarterback. So when you get these deep threats, they're going to need time, and Tannehill can do that. So give me Jakeem Grant at 3,900.
Ryan, give us one of your off-the-wall picks, off the board. Go for it.
Antonio freaking Callaway.
Yeah, boy, I like this.
300. Reed just mentioned that Jakeem Grant's kind of a Tyreek Hill-like player. Well, the scout for the Cleveland Browns who advised Callaway out of Florida is the same guy who was working for the Chiefs when they took Tyreek Hill. And for good reason. Antonio Callaway's got a 4.41 40 split at the Combine, and he ranks 5th in the NFL in air yards market share already this season. He has 41% of that team's air yards. And Tyrod Taylor looked washed to start the season, and I just have faith that Baker Mayfield is going to start connecting on some of those throws. 10 targets last week against the Jets.
All right, Greg, who is your first off-the-wall pick?
Yeah, well, one thing real quick. Mike Francesa was sitting so close to the camera, I think I could smell what cologne he was wearing.
That's impressive. You have a very strong nose.
I got Ryan to smile. Yeah. No, I'm gonna go David Johnson here. I just think he's gonna get really overlooked due to where he is, due to where he's priced, kind of a little above Giovanni Bernard. The other thing also, are we just totally out on David Johnson? I understand that the snaps haven't been there for him this year, except he's still, I think, one of the elite playmakers at the running back position. The Seahawks defense is not great, and you look at Josh Allen; he's making his first career start at quarterback. What's going to happen if he gets in trouble? He's going to probably look to check down to David Johnson, who could rack up a lot of PPR points. Really not as difficult as a matchup as people might think when they see the Seahawks defense. So I think David Johnson makes a lot of sense here, and he should have very minimal ownership.
All right, guys, we are tight on time, so we do not need your second pick. Feel free to share them with people who are watching, maybe on your Twitter accounts. Have at it. It's totally up to you. I can't make you do anything.
Thanks, Emerson.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to kick it to Adam first for his conviction play, then I will give mine, and we'll kick it to Al, who has made it through the show, even with the questionable tag. We commend him on that, and he will get us out of here. So, Adam, what's your conviction play?
Yeah, these perfect storm spots I think don't happen that often, so I have a lot of conviction around Sterling Shepard. Obviously, the Saints have the league's worst pass defense in terms of DVOA. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore will be on Odell Beckham. PJ Williams and Ken Crawley have been rotating at the other spot when Sterling Shepard goes into the slot. Patrick Robinson is out for the year, the Saints slot corner. And this is a game where I expect the Giants to play somewhat well at home, so I think it makes sense to play well through Sterling Shepard. And I didn't even mention that Evan Ingram and his 5, 6, 7, 8 targets per game are out as well. So for all those factors, it just sets up so well for Sterling Shepard. On top of that, he's below 5K. So it's hard not to have a lot of conviction around Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, love that call. He will be most likely in my cash game teams, and I'll have a lot of exposure in tournaments. That makes a ton of sense. And like you mentioned, he's going to get more and more popular as the week goes on. It'd be easy to say Alvin Kamara is my conviction play, which I've done about 80% of the time the last 2 years. I will give you something different than that, even though he truly is my conviction play. I'm going to go with Tevin Coleman, the opposite of Gio Bernard, who I think is also a great play, which we'll talk more about. I think Tevin Coleman makes a lot of sense here in a shootout. He's been very unlucky in terms of touchdowns so far with Devontae Freeman out. And obviously, that's a key. I'm assuming Devontae Freeman is out. Tevin Coleman's involved in the passing game. You get a home favorite. I just think he's underpriced relative to where he should be given the opportunity. And Tevin Coleman finally gets into the end zone, not once, but twice this week as my conviction play. Al, what do you have for us?
I mean, those are nice conviction plays. They're not thrilling, but they're nice. To me, Giovanni Bernard is my conviction play for the week. Atlanta has allowed a league-high 255 running back receptions since the beginning of 2016. The past 2 weeks, against two pretty good pass-catching backs, Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara, they gave up like 28 or 29 receptions the last 2 weeks. Do we really think that changes now against Giovanni Bernard and the Cincinnati Bengals, who don't have Joe Mixon this week? You know, assuming that he stays out like he is expected to, Bernard saw 100% of the running back touches last week for Cincinnati. He will be heavily involved in the passing game because that's how you attack this Atlanta team, giving him the highest floor of any running back for only 6,300. To me, he is a 15-point floor this week with touchdown upside. He is a cash game lock and a tournament play for me as well.
It's almost time to go. We got our NFL panel here with us. Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, Rosalie Michaels, and Reed Fowler.
Quad box, working up a sweat.
Woo!
Closing in on lock time, boys and girls. Who was the guy you were high on earlier this week, but now you may just want to pivot off of because of recent news, weather, or just a hunch?
Ooh.
Also give us a different option, please, also known as a pivot play, Reed. All right, you can give a couple picks here. So why don't you start? Handsome Hawaiian you.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to start with Drew Brees. I think if you're looking at games to stack, right, that's one of them against the Giants. But I mentioned it earlier on with Drew Brees. His home and road splits, especially outdoor, is a pretty stark difference. Look, he's 5-2 against the Giants in his career, so I get that. But this guy's passer rating and his yards and his completion average, everything, when he gets on turf is it's a little less efficient, especially what we've seen, right? I still think they do well. I just don't think hang at that price. I'd rather go to Phillip Rivers. Rosalie mentioned it, that stack with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Melvin Gordon, all of these guys going against a San Francisco defense and a team that potentially could stay in it in like the first half, maybe. I like that spot a lot better if I'm going to pay in that 6K range. And so Drew Brees would be my guy that I'm sweating a little bit and going to Rivers.
Wow, Reed.
My girl Rosalie, who are you pivoting off of?
What's up, Jessie?
Hey,
Ladies,
Rosalie, I'm here too.
let's go.
I'm here too.
I know we're both in the red today.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Speaking of red, I'm actually going to somebody that plays in red. I know everybody's high on Matt Breida, and I was too, going against the Chargers D. But you know what? That hyperextended knee is really got me worried. And then when you look into it a little bit deeper, I feel like he's really going to be a push play because Alfred Morris is going to be out. I feel like they're playing him because they have to, not because they want to. And if you look at the LA Chargers D, they gave up a good amount of points to Todd Gurley, but they didn't give up more than 10 to LaShawn McCoy and Kareem Hunt. So I'm pivoting and going towards James White, who is a fully healthy guy, and Michelle is in there. But if you look at the past 2 weeks, snap count has been White 59, Michelle 36. And Tom Brady says he wants more of White in the offensive game plan. And to me, if Brady says he wants him in there, I think we know that we're going to see a little bit more in there. So the Miami Dolphins are averaging about 15 fantasy points a game. And I think this is a Pats bounce back game. We don't see the Patriots lose and not do well for multiple games in a row. And the Pats have scored over 30 points in their last 3 meetings with the Miami Dolphins. So I think this is going to be a good game for White. And to me, at only a couple $100 less, I think he's a better play than Breda.
All right, your internet seems to disagree with you, but
we got it.
Working up a sweat, Steven. Is there someone you like? You're maybe pivoting on? Any late changes that you're making leading up to lock time?
Yeah, this is more of like a strategy thing for me. I was planning on paying down at tight end, but, as the week has gone along, I think just paying up is actually one of the better options here. I mean, look at Ron Gronkowski. There's no Rashad Jones for the Dolphins. That's a big boost for him. Zach Ertz is going up against the Titans. When you look at the Titans, what they've done against opposing tight ends, I mean, who have they really had to defend against? They played the Dolphins, the Texans, and the Jaguars. Pop quiz. Can you name 3 guys on those teams that are tight ends? No, you can't. So who really? They have nothing that they've had to defend against there. So I feel like that defense has been unproven in that realm. Look, Eric Ebron is going to be the big chalk play at tight end. Austin Hooper's name has been in there, and I definitely get the appeal there with the saving some money there. But I think the high-priced guys are going to be low-owned. I think that's a good spot for some of those guys.
Jeff, anybody you're sort of not feeling so high on anymore?
Yeah, I'm okay pivoting off the Bears defense right now. I mean, I mentioned off the top, Prince Amukamara out, Marcus Cooper out. Those are 2 good corners for the Chicago Bears. And I don't think people are making a big enough deal about it. We saw what happened with the Rams on Thursday night. Down Aqib Talib and hurt Marcus Peters, and they gave up a ton of points. I think the Bears could do the same thing. You can still play Chicago. That's fine. You have Khalil Mack with some upside, but I like Arizona as a pivot play, quite frankly. Seattle O-line is not good. Arizona's at home. They still have talent on the defensive side of the ball, no matter how bad their offense has been. So I think it's a very good tournament play for me. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't or can't play the Bears a little bit, but I like the Cardinals better right now.
Okay, guys, we're going to get your slate of proofs coming up. We have 3.5 minutes in this show. Let's hit on some questions here. Reed, Baker Mayfield or Marcus Mariota?
Oh, Baker.
Okay.
Steve, D.D. Westbrook or Antonio Callaway for flex?
Callaway. I think that's not even a close one.
Why?
I just think Callaway's in such a better spot here than Westbrook. I mean, with Fournette back.
Just say Blake Bortles.
Yeah, Blake Bortles. Fournette's back, doesn't have to throw as much.
The boat. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
Rosalie, would you go Ryan Fitzpatrick or Baker Mayfield?
I got to go Fitzpatrick. Baker Mayfield is still unknown. So Fitzpatrick, at least I know I'm going to get a good amount of points out of him.
Okay.
He may make some mistakes, but I like Fitzpatrick.
Jeff, Rivers or Rodgers today?
Rivers. I just feel like there's a bit more chance of a shootout. And again, full healthy Phillip Rivers versus, a little bit banged up Aaron Rodgers.
2.5 minutes to go in the show. Reed, Ebron, or what was the other one he asked for? Eifert.
Ooh, I think if you want to go contrarian, you're going to go Eifert, right? That's a high implied game total. Dalton's going to throw. Ebron could be a potential chalk bomb.
Let's see.
I have one ready.
Okay.
Would a Rivers, Mike Williams stack work against the 49ers? Jeff.
Yeah, I like it. I like Mike Williams this week. I mean, I think he's actually going to be like a little bit less owned than most people think because there's so many players in this range. He's gained the trust of Phillip Rivers, though. It's a really good matchup, so why not? Keenan Allen's a little bit banged up, too. I like Mike Williams.
Okay.
Steve, need a flex in PPR. Deion Lewis, Kerryon Johnson, or Sony Michel?
It's got to be Deion Lewis of that bunch there. Johnson doesn't catch enough, so it's got to be Lewis.
All right, slate approved time. Let's go. Rosalie. Who is your lock for today's main slate?
We mentioned him a little bit earlier. It's Ezekiel Elliott. You know what? Worst rush defense in the league against that Dallas line. Gives up a lot of yards and lots of touchdowns and over 34 fantasy points. Zeke.
Steve, slate approved. Go.
Yeah, it's got to be Kamara. I think he's just going to smash again today.
Yeah, big guy.
Yeah, let's go. Jeff, slate approved.
Going back to Tevin Coleman at 5,900. He's a better back, all-around back than Gio Bernard, and he's going to be lesser owned. And he's way down in price this week. So give me some Tevin Coleman once again.
Saving the sweetest for last here. Go ahead, Reed, my favorite analyst, tied for
Wow, bold
There we
statement.
go.
Wow.
Let's
Did
go.
everybody
Save the
hear
best for
that?
last. And
Okay, cool.
Just because of that, I'm going to disagree with Jeff and say Gio Bernard is a slate approved. Look at what Atlanta gives up to pass catching back. So Gio Bernard.
Yeah, I actually have 3 analysts tied for first. It's Reed, Rosalie, and Steve, and then you got to drop. It's outside the top 10.
Wow.
Jeff is.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That is.
I don't know.
Jeff and I will not forget that. Let me just tell you.
I can mark that down, buddy.
Yeah.
You got it,
Marked
partner.
that down.
All right, guys, we appreciate it. Good show today.
Yeah,
good
great
hour and a half
stuff.
show.
Yeah.
You know who you're playing in your season-long fantasy league today?
Yeah. You.
Yeah. I got a pizza.
I got a pizza. All right, this has been The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, Rosalie. Thank you.